On page 13, at the top, you'll see the little bubble at the top to put these notes in. Go ahead and copy them down. I know these are silly words, hoy and vux. You'll see that in blue, I have the hoy, H for horizontal line, O in the hoy for slope, a 0 slope. Because we know when we end up with a horizontal line going left to right, as you can see in blue on the graph, that's a 0 slope, right? That's still possible for you to walk on, to ski, to snowboard and such. That equation is going to be a y equals equation or a y-intercept. Right now, it's going to be a little silly until we actually go to practice it. So just write down these notes. If you need to pause the video, you can go ahead and pause the video. I'm going to go over what vux is. Vux is a vertical line, right? That's a literal line going up and down. Look at it in red. That's an undefined slope. We know how to read that. But that means that equation for that line is going to be an x equals or an x. It gives you an x-intercept. You'll notice in these two equations, there's no other variable other than the one variable. That's what makes it a special case. You only end up with one variable. If you're not done copying the notes, go ahead and copy this. We're going to get started on the first example on this page. So again, we are on page 13. Let's take a look at this. Is this a hoy or a vux? Well, it's a vertical line going straight up and down. So V, vertical, vux. This is a vux. We also know it's an undefined slope because that's what the U in the vux helps me with. The X tells me, well, this is going to be an X equals whatever the intercept is. In this case, there's an X-intercept. There's no Y-intercept because it's going straight up and down. Well, that number is 1, 2, this is a 3. So it's literally just X equals 3. And the reason I know it's an X equals equation is because I identified this line as a vux. You can also do this for number 2. Is it a vux or a hoy? I noticed it's a horizontal line, so H-O-Y. Well, it's going to be a y equals equation because that's what y tells me. It is a 0 slope, right? But I'm not identifying slope. I just want to write the equation. So it's going to be y equals, let's count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I went down, so this is a negative 6. So my equation is y equals negative 6. When I ask you for an equation, and it ends up being a special case because it's a straight vertical line or it's a left and right horizontal line, right? It's not slanted like this or this. No, it's a literal up and down, vertical or horizontal. It's a special case, and these are the only ways to write them. It does not matter what format I ask it for you in. I know you don't know these forms yet, but if I ask you for slope-intercept form, point slope form, standard form, any of these, special cases can only be written in one way. There's no other way to write it. So if you notice, our vux has no y-intercept. It doesn't cross the y-axis at all, so it has no y-intercept. That's okay. For hoy, there is a y-intercept because it crosses the y-axis. There's some things that these lines have and some things that they don't. Go ahead and practice on the rest of this page. You can pause the video while we practice before going to the second part of this lesson. The second part of this lesson is going to be to graph it. So this time I give you an equation. Well, let's see. This has an x equals, and the vux has an x in it. So vux, right? That's how I know it's an x equals equation. Well, this is going to help me draw it because V in vux is a vertical line. So it's going to be straight up and down. And the x over here also tells me an x-intercept. Well, I have this 2, so I go to the x-axis, plot a point at the 2. Since it's a vertical line, I go straight up and down. That's it. You just graphed x equals 2. Let's try number 2. Number 2 is a hoy because it's a y equals, and this is a y. We know it'll be a 0 slope. We also know it's going to be a horizontal line. Remember, this y also tells me whatever it's equal to is where it crosses that axis. You're probably wondering, well, how do I know which axis? Well, guess what? Hoy has a y. Everything is y. Y-axis, y-equation, y-intercept. If we looked at our vux, everything was x-axis, right? X-intercept, x-equation. All has to do with the x-axis. Hoy has everything to do with the y-axis. So I see the 2, and I put the 2 on the y-axis, and I know it's a horizontal line which goes left to right. You graphed it. Let's try one more. Number 3, is this a hoi or a vux? First determine that. We see it's an x equals, so we make it a vux because it's x equals. It's a vertical line, so straight up and down, and it's going to be at the -1 on the x-axis. X-axis is here, the -1 straight up and down. Go ahead and finish practicing with this page.